Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. And, folks, we are going back to that horrible world this morning known as the JRC at a very decidedly not stupid clock. Before we get going, a few disclaimers real quick. First of all, just to let you know, if you want to take a look at this article, you will find links to it right there in the description. Also, other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, most especially important, the templates. Put your name in, click on your senator, get it done. The Change.org petition to shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down is also still up and will always be up on every single video until those bastards are closed down, because that's the only way these kids are finally going to be safe. Folks, also, it may be not stupid o'clock, but my brain has been dealing with a lot of some of the most stupid and hateful crap I've seen in a good long minute. A lot of gaslighting of both NDs and anybody who dares support an ND. So, if I mangle any sentences horribly, or I go off into a curse-filled rant, my apologies in advance. So, folks, we are starting back where we left off yesterday. Here, let me move closer. This is uncomfortable. Here we go. Alright, so summary of licensing and regulations that affect student safety. Oh, wow, this should be good. So, yeah, we're going to the JRC, folks. You know the disclaimer. Young children present, please use headphones. There will be vivid descriptions of abuse and torture, and sometimes video clips or video surveillance of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. Okay, let's see here. JRC is required to follow numerous state and federal regulations. But do they? These include safety and education regulations and requirements for Massachusetts and for the states that send students to the JRC, as well as all applicable federal regulations. The fact that all these regulations actually allow this place to exist and do what it does means all the regulations they are using in the world mean jack shit to the students that are stuck here. I'm just going to say it for all the rest of us, just in case any of y'all were wondering. The key licensing regulations and the regulations that directly affect how the JRC protects the safety of its students. Okay, they protect the safety of their students, Judge. Really? Really? Wow. If that's what protection is, I'm out. Are found in the regulations of the Department of Early Education and Care, the regulations of the Department of Developmental Services. Thank God I didn't work for the Massachusetts branch out there. My God, I probably would have been fired real quick. I'm like, oh, really? I'm gonna whistleblow this shit. Yeah, they wouldn't have wanted me there. In the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regulations. Y'all need to revamp your regulations if you allow this place to exist. Just saying. These three bodies of law make up the primary legal requirements that the JRC must follow when developing safety policies and procedures for its students. I've never heard a more blatant oxymoron in my entire life. Safety policies at the JRC. Alright, folks. I'm a little fired up this morning. You're just going to have to bear with me here. Department of Early Education and Care Residential Regulations 102 CMR 3 Required Notifications. EEC must be notified when a 51A report has been filed with the Department of Children and Families. In the event of a serious illness, JRC must notify the resident's parent or guardian. How often do they actually do that? the referral source, and the Department of Education when applicable. I wonder what your definition of applicable was. I would think it would be informing Miss McCollins what was happening to her son, but oh no, not that. In the event of a serious accident or death, JRC must also notify the Office of DEEC. In the event of a serious injury to a resident resulting in hospitalization or an incident involving escape from a secure facility, JRC must notify the DEEC office within 24 hours of the injury or incident. Yeah, I gotta take those kids escaping hell back, don't you? JRC must notify the DEEC office prior to any substantial changes in the program, physical facility, staffing, population, service, policies, or services offered. JRC must supply a quarterly report to the office of all restraints and injuries related to restraints in the program. We all know they don't. We all know they don't. God, the fact that you just buy this, I don't. Orientation and training. Oh God. I'm already ranting. Well, let's see what level of stupidity this is. Each new employee of a program which uses restraint must receive a minimum of 16 hours of training in prevention and use of restraint, which must include the needs and behaviors of the population served, relationship building, prevention of restraint, de-escalation methods, avoiding power struggles, thresholds for restraints, the physiological impact of restraint, monitoring physical signs of distress and obtaining medical assistance, legal issues, positional asphyxia, escape and evasion techniques, time limits, the process for obtaining approval of continued restraints, procedures to address problematic restraints, documentation, processing with children, following up with staff, and investigation of injuries and complaints. Prevention restraint training must also include role-playing and de-escalation, demonstration of proficiency with each hold taught, and written post-training tests. A, they don't follow it, and B, 16 hours? Really? Really? 16 hours of training means jack shit, people. Okay? It means jack shit. You really expect people to be able to learn, quote unquote, proper restraints, how to do it properly, how to properly de-escalate a person with a particular disability in 16 hours? Really? Really? That's your minimum. That is really your minimum. Wow. But they train them in all of this. They do a 16-hour training. But do you do anything that is backed up that actually makes them prove that they are utilizing any of this? Because these people go to shock as not last resort, as they always say, but number one resort the minute these kids get put on the GED. Shock for any and all behaviors. We have the fucking sheets. Just saying. 16 hours, folks. 16 hours to learn de-escalation. God. JRC must provide ongoing staff training programs and must describe in writing the program's plan for staff training and refresher training. God. The plan for staff training must include a minimum of 8 hours of annual refresher training for each staff in effective de-escalation and safe restraint methods, written post-training tests, and regular review of restraints implemented. Really? Folks, as somebody who's been in several jobs where you have to take certain trainings on a semi-regular basis, taking those trainings doesn't mean that the place actually requires you to do what the trainings are telling you to do. That is literally giving a token effort for the state so that they'll leave you alone. That's literally all it is. If they actually implemented all this training that this judge is citing, do you think any of these incidents would actually be occurring? No, because non-compliance is no reason to engage in the 4-point board, okay? It's not. If you were actually trying to de-escalate the situation, you would not immediately throw them on the board, all right? Okay? And by the way, de-escalation is not yelling, no speaking out. Just thought you should know. Moving on. Supervision. JRC must make all child care and clinical staff directly responsible to a staff person who has supervisory or administrative responsibility. Child care and clinical staff must have regular scheduled occurrences with assigned supervisor regarding children's needs and how to meet them. Yeah, y'all meet their needs all right by, starving them, but we won't talk about that, will we, Judge? Supervisors must conduct and document evaluations at least yearly of all child care and clinical staff, which must consider implementation of restraints, attendance at trainings, and ability to implement resident service plan. So you all are writing off on this, including those behavioral lessons? Wow. I didn't think the state was complicit before. Usual or extraordinary treatment. JRC is authorized to use adversives as indicated on its EEC license. Adversives make no sense, people. But we must punish them for incorrect behavior. Incorrect in whose eyes? Incorrect in whose eyes? You all don't get away with this with any other minority except us, and it's ridiculous. Moving on. Program policies approved and adversives administered subject to DMH Level 3 certification, because a certification makes it better. The program may utilize transportation restraint according to approved variants. The program obtains court approval and DMR Level 3 certification for certain aspects of behavioral plans. That's my proof, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone else who wants to argue with me, but the judge in the UK said on the JD case, here's my Exhibit A of how many judges out there make horrendous, horrific decisions. Okay? We good? Good. I'm glad we got that over with. Staff-child ratios. JRC must establish a written description of the staffing of the facility on 24-hour per day, 7-day per week basis. Then I wonder why their hiring practices are so lacking. The staffing plan must include the availability of administrative and clinical staff on on-call basis as well. The staff-child ratio must be appropriate to the age, capabilities, needs, and service plans of the residents in the facility and sufficient to carry out the requirements of 102 CMR 3. Obviously, it is not if we have literal evidence of a man punching the shit out of an autistic kid in one of their group homes. Oh, but that's the exception, really? Because those stories crop up with a startling regularity with JRC, which we'll go over those in a little while once we get through this horrendous POS. Behavior management. JRC must maintain a written statement defining rules, policies, and procedures for behavior management. It must include a description of safeguards for the emotional, physical, and psychological well-being of the population served, as well as the positive responses to appropriate behavior. We gotta use that stick and carrot, folks. Let's train these people like dogs. The statement must define the use of behavior management procedures used in facility, including a level point system of privileges, the type and range of restrictions a staff member can authorize for misbehavior, the form of physical restraint used, the behavioral interventions used as alternatives to restraint, and controls on abuse of such restraints. Oh yes, their alternatives are stellar. The circumstances under which the program would restrain a resident, the name of the restraint coordinator, the procedure for regular review of restraint data by a restraint safety committee. Wow, you all sign off on this. You all sign off on this. My God. The names and positions of members of the Restraint Safety Committee. The use and practice of separating a resident from a group or program activity, and any denial or restriction of on-grounds program services. Unless JRC obtains a variance prior to implementation, the use of any form of restraint other than passive physical restraint is prohibited. Restraint may only be used when the resident is demonstrating that he or she is dangerous to him or herself or others, and no other intervention has been or is likely to be effective in averting the danger. But when you let people judge that for themselves, they consider noncompliance aggressive and dangerous. And what is noncompliance? Well, that's simple. Simply questioning why I'm having to refold a napkin, unfold it, and do it again and again. Any questioning of staff is considered dangerous, people. No residents may be restrained solely for noncompliance with a program rule. Oh, but they are. They are, Judge. They really are. You should really look at one of those behavioral sheets sometime. Only a staff trained in physical restraint can participate in restraining residents. The administrative designee must be notified immediately whenever physical restraint is used. After the first 5 minutes of a restraint, steps must be taken to contact an on-call administrative or clinical staff. The form of restraint must be the least intrusive means. Because a 4-point board is not intrusive? Okay, Karen. If a resident needs to be restrained for more than 20 minutes, the approval of the chief administrative person or his designee must be obtained. The physical condition of a resident who is being restrained must be commonly monitored. A resident who exhibits signs of physical distress during a restraint must be released and medically treated. Oh, yes, the school that prides themselves on getting kids off medicine, you really think they're going to give them meds like, normal people? Yeah, no. Any resident who has been restrained more than 5 times in a 7-day period must receive a review of his or her clinical and behavioral needs by his or her assigned case manager or clinician within 3 days of the fifth restraint. All restraints must be documented. I thank God. Here's my final thoughts. I thank God, and I never thought I'd see this day, that when I was in programs, I was in the state of Missouri. And I never in my entire life thought those words would ever leave my mouth. And this is all ridiculous. Ridiculous. Who is this protecting, really? Oh, but they have to mean it. Okay. Who's going to determine whether or not the restraints are needed? It can't be used for non-compliance. Okay. And the JRC will just simply construe how them being defiant in any way from nonsensical orders is considered dangerous. These kids are literally shocked for speaking out of turn. And you want to sit there and talk to me, oh no, they follow these rules now. Do they? Do they? Because all the accounts after this 2007 incident, including the entire state of Jennifer Masumba, I might add, goes and shows the exact opposite. Your regulations don't mean shit as long as they're forced to stay on those devices, forced to remain on food contingent programs, forced to remain on sleep deprivation, forced to be restrained and then shocked. The list goes on. Your regulations, Massachusetts, for this place are nothing but empty words and lip service to placate your constituents. That is all it is. And the sad fact of the matter is, Those people who see this for what it is and actually give a damn see through it like glass. You are literally making empty regulations, which does nothing to help with the safety for a single student in that entire school. Okay? The only thing that is actually going to help is shutting this torture place down. You all are too lazy to actually do a very thorough investigation of this place. We have to rely on video surveillance clips from other court cases in order to get a full picture of what's actually going on there, because apparently we can't trust you any more than the JRC to actually report on what actually the hell goes on behind those closed doors. So, Judge Bernstein, Court System of Massachusetts, Special Education System of Massachusetts, you all are not doing anything to keep these kids safe. And with those final thoughts, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close out at least for this video for this morning. There's going to be another one directly following it, and then after that, there will be another video sometime later this afternoon. Now, we don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.